Thank you. You may be seated. Our gospel this morning is the parable of the talents from the 25th chapter of Matthew. It will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and gave his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, and to a third 1 talent, each according to his ability. And then the man went on his journey. The servant who had received the 5 talents went at once, put his money to work, and gained 5 more. So also the one with 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master came home from his journey and to settle accounts with his servants. The man who had received 5 talents brought the other 5. Master, you entrusted me with 5 talents. I have gained you 5 more. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. And the man with the 2 talents came. Master, you gave me 2 talents, and I have gained you 2 more. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come, share my happiness. And the man who had received 1 talent came and said, Master, I know that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and hid your talent in the ground. Here, this is what belongs to you. And his master replied, You lazy servant. You knew I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. How'd you know that? Then you should have put my money on deposit with the banker, so then I would have at least received interest. So he said to the other servants, Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10. For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. And throw this worthless servant out into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The word from the Lord in the house of the Lord. The story in the Old Testament is about Deborah, who was a prophetess who happened to be running Israel at that time, running the Israelites, because they had no king yet. They hadn't petitioned God to give them a king. So they were ruled by judges. And it sounds a lot like what's going on right now. That line in there that says, and man did that which was evil in the sight of God. The very last line of Judges, if you want to go look it up, says something to the effect that, and man continued to do that which man thought was right. It was after that, and after they won the battle against Sisera, the general, that they finally petitioned God, and he gave him a king, even though he said, you don't need one, you got me. What do you need? Isn't that something that a nation wanted a king so they could be like all the other nations and have a king to rule over them? And God said, hey, you got me. Why do you need a king? We're never always sure that what we have is what we need. The story of the master who gave his servants talents. Now, talent was a big bunch of money at that time, but it really boils down, if you use it in a more modern interpretation of talent. If you have 5 talents and you don't develop them, then you're wasting them. Is there anybody in here who does not have any talent at all? Now, I'm going to argue with you because every one of you has a talent that you have not developed yet. If you say you don't have any. Can you hear me? Do you understand me? Then you have developed a talent for listening. And that's a pretty strange talent, because most of the time when we're charged with listening, we'd rather interrupt. Because the one we want to listen to is not you, it's me. That's what we do with most of our listening. And if you have something you want to say, I'm going to top it with something. And yet, what is unique about the ability to listen is that you really reach a person's heart if you'll listen to what they're saying to you. That's the talent that we need to develop. That's the one that we ought to double up on. That's the one we ought to make sure we can grow. Oh, along with a lot of other talents. A talent for loving, a talent for giving, a talent for serving. You see, these are some of the talents that God has given to us that are innate in what we do and who we are. Just think, the modern version of the story there would have been when the master said, why didn't you just put my money in a CD and watch it go to waste? A little boy that got $1 for his birthday and went to the bank and got change for it and very carefully counted out. And then he went to the store and he gave him the change and got a dollar bill. Then he went to another store and gave him the dollar bill and got change, which he very carefully counted out. Went to another store and got change. Then he went to another store and got dollar bill again. Finally wound up back at the bank to get $1. And the banker said, what have you been doing all day? And he said, I've been changing money. He said, why are you doing that? He said, sooner or later, somebody's going to make a mistake, and it ain't going to be me. Sooner or later, something good or something bad has to happen. The static situation never stays static forever. We're in the business of listening, whether we realize it or not. And I want to stress on that talent now, because that's one that we don't use as often as we ought to. I mentioned the lady who got in her car with tears running down her face. And it made me feel good, because you guys did something for her. Made me feel good because I didn't have to do anything. I just had to be there. But the wonder of wonders is the great thing is that our talents are there. We just overlook them so often. Whether it be a talent for listening, a talent for speaking, a talent for touching, a talent for... There's a real talent to giving. You know, it's tough when you give someone a gift and you make them feel like they owe you something back. All gifts ought to be given anonymous. But no, I want credit for my gifts. I mean, you guys ought to give them without any strings attached, but I want everybody to know how wonderfully generous and how fantastically giving I am in my life. Sure I am. The talent, what God is talking about, or what Christ is talking about in the parable, is the one who had a talent and did nothing with it. And he said, throw him out. We don't want him in our kingdom. And that's a terrible thing to contemplate. If we only have one talent and we do nothing with it, what's God going to use us for? And if our only talent is listening, that's good. If our only talent is loving, that's good. But we have to make that talent double itself. We have to make it more than just being there. It has to have a life of its own. It has to have integrity. It has to have body to it. I'm not talking about singing and playing an instrument or any of that kind of stuff when I'm talking about talents. I'm not talking about running fast or shooting baskets. These are the things that people measure, not what God measures. God measures the talents of the heart. I mentioned earlier we got money and we got food because we're going to give it away. There's not much percentage in getting stuff to give away. I remember when I was younger up in Wisconsin, we had a couple of Norwegians, Are any Norwegians here? Well, you won't get it anyway, so don't worry about it. They were selling Christmas trees. They were buying Christmas trees at $7 a piece and selling them for $5. And they said they were not making a living, and they said they're going to buy a bigger truck next year. Our talent has to be usable. Our talent has to be marketable. Our talent has to be livable. No, it's not about money. It's not about possessions. It's about the heart. And do you have enough talents in your heart to care for people around you? To listen to the one who just needs to unburden themselves. And to just listen. Or to talk when someone feels so lonely. And there are a lot of lonely people in our world who would just love to have a conversation. That's one of the things. That's one of the talents. That's not the only talent. It's just the one I seem to be dwelling on today. This morning I made the mistake of using the illustration that, can you just sit and listen to someone talk for 15 minutes without going to sleep? And then I realized, yeah, you guys can. Some of you don't, but you can. We try to make a big deal out of such big things, when God makes big deals out of little things. He makes the ordinary into the extraordinary. When you share someone's pain, that's a tremendous gift. When you share someone's ultimate joy, that's an awesome gift. When you share your heart with those around you, that's the greatest gift. And we do it in so many ways. It's measurable in the number of cans of food we got. It's measurable in the boxes of cereal. It's immeasurable in the comfort we give to a bleeding heart. It's immeasurable in the comfort we give to someone who is without any comfort. Like Marie, we have those in our lives who make choices that we don't agree with. But we have to love them. We have to hear them. We have to touch them. That's 3 talents that each of you have. And you have so many more that we can't count them. But in developing them, we double them. Just as the parable says, good and faithful servants. As you develop your talents, God will give you more. For He will never overburden you, but He will ask you to unburden yourself and be the servant that He calls on us to be. Yeah, the man who had 5 talents, $500,000, doubled it to $1 million. Bill Gates has got several billion dollars, and he gives away he could give away $50 million a day for the rest of the year and not even touch his fortune. But the numbers we measure are not what's important. What's important is the reason that we live. And we live to serve the God who died to make us whole. So your talents, don't keep them. They'll bury you with them. Develop them, use them, give them, offer them, share them. What a wonderful thing we have in a God who's willing to use even the slightest talent to make a difference, a huge difference in someone's life. And you're responsible for that. Good and faithful servant. Amen.